Hey everyone. On today's show, we speak with a few Diamond Contractors who joined us for lunch at Palermo's in Chicago. But first, the METUS Minute. Today's METUS Minute is about system additives. From the factory, a Mitsubishi heat pump system is shipped with the recommended oil and refrigerant for the particular model. Oil and refrigerant should be the only two chemical substances in our systems. METUS strongly recommends against using any additive or sealer in our HVAC systems due to the possibilities of causing restrictions. In fact, any other additive, whether it is a sealer or leak detection dye, could potentially cause problems with the refrigerant flow in our systems, and it is not advised. Residential systems could have anywhere from 6 to 7 strainers in the outdoor unit alone, where our commercial systems may have twice as many depending on the model. Strainers in the system can collect these additives and become restricted. Other components such as reversing valves, LEVs, check valves, and solenoid valves can gum up and malfunction due to certain additives. Thanks for listening. Now here's the latest episode of the METUS Tech Show. The METUS Tech Show.
Welcome to the METUS Tech Show, a show for HVAC professionals by HVAC professionals.
I like how you guys bounce back and forth between heat pump talk and food talk.
The METUS Tech Show.
Mitsubishi.
All right, we're at Palermo's 95th in Oakland, Illinois. And this is the first time that I've ever had deep dish pizza. I had one piece, and I was stuck.
Women.
And Paul had 3 plates.
No. I purposely avoided the deep dish for that reason, but they got some thin. So we had, I've never heard of this. We have a stuffed pizza, which looks like deep dish. And we have a deep dish, which looks like deep dish. And then the other 3 are thin pizzas. One of them, I need Anthony here. What was it one?
Beef and hot giardiniera.
Beef and heart giardiniera, I think. It was one of the best pizzas I've ever had. I liked it.
I thought I saw you start with a deep dish.
No, that was from Juan.
Oh,
Juan had that. I'm not
sure?
I did. That was really good.
Yeah. Then we got 4 or 5. There's a dozen people here, and we ordered 2, 3, 4, 5 pizzas, and we have 4 left. Everybody's stuffed. One pizza, which is
So this is pretty cool. We're doing this for the first time from a restaurant, right? We just ate. We usually talk about food. We're not actually at the place.
Right.
So we just literally just finished stuffing our faces with pizza.
So we have a lot of listeners that just love our food talk. They wish we talk more about food.
I keep getting that as feedback.
Right.
Yeah. Talk more about food, less about the technical stuff.
We're being very sarcastic.
Yes, that's what I do.
So what's the biggest difference between the stuffed and the deep dish?
The deep dish, according to Dave here, the deep dish is more crust than the stuffed, which is 2 crusts.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yes, it does.
Are you hungry yet?
I could eat another slice. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah.
All right, welcome everybody to the METUS Tech Show. My name is Paul Schaubs, and there's a bunch of people in the room. We're going to go around the table, introduce everybody. Juan, say hi.
Hi.
That was Juan. He hasn't been on in a while, and after this episode, you'll know why.
Steve here from Boston.
Bryn from Boston.
Brian, you're here.
Brian from Atlanta.
All right, so those guys are the METUS folks. A couple more METUS folks.
Jen from Chicago.
Jen's from Chicago. She's from here.
Anthony from Chicago.
Anthony from Chicago. Anthony Malocas has been on, and he's the one who put all this together. So thanks for setting this up.
Anthony.
Hey. All right, we're going to introduce our special guests. We're going to go around the table. Tell us your name, company you're with, kind of an overview of what you do and how long you've been doing it.
We got Dave Meter, South Suburban Heating and Air Conditioning. We're on the border of Indiana, Illinois, right along the IU corridor. So South Suburb, Lansing, Illinois. 70-year-old family-owned operating company. I'm president. I run it with 2 little brothers. We got 10 in the company right now. could use a couple of techs. I know there's a lot of techs out there floating around. But we could
Yeah.
use a couple of techs, but we've been successful handling American Standard products as a unitary, and then attaching ourselves to the Mitsubishi even before we merged with training American Standard. So doing really well with the product.
Oh, good. Good. Welcome.
My name is Jerry with Precision Heating and Cooling. I started in 1998 from scratch. I was just basically a couple years prior to that, fresh out of grade school, worked for a couple local contractors, and took it upon myself on my 21st birthday, all through the business license. And fast forward to today, here we are. I got about 12, 13 people all together with office staff, installation, service, and sales, and we're pretty much 50-50 commercial residential dealership. We have a lot of Mitsubishi customers, and we're a trained dealership as well.
And you brought somebody with you? Who do you bring with you?
Introduce
My
yourself.
fault. And I got my son Peter with me.
Peter?
I am Peter. I'm with Precision Heating and Cooling.
Right. And you told us earlier you're 21, so this
21.
means, according to what your father just said, you're ready to take over the business.
Soon enough.
Yeah. Okay.
If it runs out a couple more years.
Nice. Peter's like,
Well,
Yeah, my name is Paul Bosco. I'm the owner of Ignite Heating and Air. We established our company back in 2017, and we came in right as Mitsubishi and Trane were partnering up, and it was my little entryway into the whole Mitsubishi field, and we haven't looked back since. It's actually been about 9% of our business this year. We're looking to grow. We're relatively small. Got about 4 contractors or 4 team members, part of our team, and just looking to scale up. Also, I am a adjunct instructor at a local community college, soon to be a department head. So we're definitely going to be giving a lot of Mitsubishi equipment a focus in the program.
Nice. How'd you come up with a name for your business?
It's simple because everyone recommends a guy.
I know a guy.
Yeah.
I like it.
that's good.
Yeah, I know
A guy.
No, I can say I actually know a guy.
I know one
Yeah.
guy.
And we know a guy that eats like multiple guys.
Yes. Yes. We're not going to name him.
No.
All right. So we talked about you talked about the systems you install, crew sizes that you have. So how many installers versus service techs do you have?
So we're basically
Or do you
everybody
do it
does the
all?
same thing.
Everybody.
Yeah,
does that?
everybody's just on the job. We can have service, we can have installs. It just really depends. Sometimes we're doing one-to-one, sometimes we're doing multi-zones. So you may need one guy, you may need a bunch of guys, and then we're training the guys as they go through the program. So there's endless amounts of training. So we always like to have as many people on site as possible to learn from each other.
Oh, Jerry. Same question. How many
So altogether,
installers
there's
versus service?
about 9 guys in the field, and most of them we like to almost, I call them like universal. We want to train them back and forth. It just seems like a much better approach to be able to keep them in year round versus having dedicated service and dedicated installers. So we do kind of like to mix them up a little bit on the field.
Dave, same thing.
No, actually, we're a little bit more segmented. We're actually a union shop.
Oh, okay.
So we got new construction, retrofit, and service, few service guys, a few installers at this point, and a couple of construction, sheet metal, mostly commercial. Yep.
And Jerry, 454B. So big transition this year, right? We're trying to install all the rest of the 410A equipment that we have left. And have you installed any 454B? Are you ready for the 454B equipment? Have you been trained?
Yeah, so we just pretty much sent everybody to all the distributor training for it. So nothing out of line here, nothing where it's scared anybody, anything like that. All the techs, everybody's got the appropriate tools and the know-how and whatever special fittings that they need, the new adapters and whatnot. I haven't had the opportunity yet to put any in. There has still been some decent surplus. And all the stuff that we got currently present in the recent past going on. But I'm expecting now we're 354s out there, 454, so we expect to see some future installations coming up in the near future.
Dave, have you installed any A2L yet, or are you still?
One's going in today, a single zone, but we've done plenty of the R54 units.
Right.
Yeah, same thing on the metric side. It's split systems. We got 454 out there.
I think that's our first one.
And Paul, how about you?
Yeah, so we've got our first 454B system lined up for next week. There's this great show that I've been listening to called the METUS Tech Show, and there's a lot of good HVAC information on there.
So you're the one who's listening.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, that's
Actually,
He's the A guy.
hey, but wait a minute. What are we going to do? What are we going to do when everybody who listens to the show is here in the room?
It's going to be awesome.
That could be Wednesday.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. The whole audience is with us right now.
One thing I like to talk about is tools. I love to talk about tools in the trade, and I've been out of the field, most of us, right? Been out of the field for a while, and a lot's changed. Maybe not. I get a lot of contractors that come to my classes, and they fill me in on all the tools, all the different pieces of equipment, things to make your job easier. Is there anything, Paul, that you use now, any tools that you just started using, whether it be digital or whatever?
Yeah, the big one that comes to mind is using Amplet. So, yeah, for the people that aren't familiar, it's a software that goes onto your tablet, and you're able to do a heat and cooling load calculation directly in the person's home. So you 3D scan the person's home, put in any parameters that you need, and you're going to be left with what size system you need for that space. And you do that for each room. And that's really beneficial because I can size the system directly there on the spot and know exactly what we're putting in. I can then go back and make changes on the DSP if I need to. But that's been a lifesaver. I'm not guessing anymore, right? Or, hey, you know what? I was using potentially right soft before. Well, then maybe I put in the wrong parameters. I did an adjustment. The software takes care of it. The other thing that I absolutely love is the NAVAC flaring tool. Never leave home without it.
Yeah, so the battery operated.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, I made a mistake of saying that that's an idiot-proof tool when it comes to making flares. And somebody emailed us and corrected me and said it's idiot-resistant. It's not idiot-proof. Yeah, there's a huge.
Yeah, so Brent and I got a chance to use the NAVAC tool not too long ago. And what did you think, Brent?
It's a pretty steep learning curve. I'd never messed with it before, and I didn't read the instructions for it. So figuring out what to put on when, as far as how to actually set the floor. But once you do, you make a slight adjustment for the depth of the flare, and then you got to remember
But
to put
those
the flare on.
the closed-in devices that allow you to put the flare in. It's got the gauge, so you don't have to worry about the height, right? Back in the day, nickel, right? Flare block, and I still got some of those flare blocks, and I still use them from time to time. But that takes, if you're gonna make 12 flares with a NAVAC tool, to me, you can make 12 of the same flares, consistently good flares. Any other tools that you guys are using? Dave, Jerry, Peter?
Nothing that comes to mind, but that's what's nice about stuff like this. We get together, and I know Paul here. We're in the same neighborhood. We get along fairly well. We just got dances like that.
Fairly,
yeah. So, right? We play in the same sandbox as we go. Just could be worse, but that's something I definitely be interested in looking at. And like I said, these types of gatherings definitely help learn and get that good information, take it to the level of the tool.
Have any of you ever used the flaring gauge?
Right, is that kind of what you're talking about?
Well, it's a separate tool where it actually, I also call it the go no go flaring gauge. This is the flare goes straight through the opening. It's not good. If it doesn't go into the opening, it's not
right,
good.
So more of an old school type.
Right, it needs to go in and stop about halfway.
Yeah, so we do use that. I know one of the main tools we said, some of the tools we've been going out with the install. It's one of the tools that are in there, like we J&B make that I believe.
Right.
Nice setup that we have that goes out with the staging of that.
One of the other ones that I love to use is the Easy Bender. It's basically a plastic line, goes into the lines, you can easily bend, not worry about kinks, come in different sizes, so if we're doing long runs, short runs, we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, Easy Bender.
Yeah, we got that too. Pretty much whatever the guys request, if they see, if they run into that line or something. And make sure they get what they need. Save time, save money.
Yeah.
I will say that we installed one of our 454B units in the training center, and what I noticed more than anything was how similar it felt to installing 410A. You really didn't notice a difference until you got to adding additional trip charge, right? Because you need that reverse paint thread adapter. It's really the big change. It's one thing you really can't get anywhere without, because you need that for connecting to a recovery cylinder and for charging tanks. But that was really the only time I ran into a snag that was any different than a standard 410A installation. You still are going to do the best practices. That's the one noticeable change required before installation.
When I got into this trade, I was probably Peter's age, maybe a year or two older. And I remember the first piece of pipe I had to bend, I bought these springs.
Yep.
I bent this piece of pipe, and to this day, if that system is still there, that spring is still on that pipe. I couldn't get it off.
Yeah.
It stayed there. So it was a one-time use.
Yeah, I used those in high school. In vocational school, we had to use those. We would just sit there and fight, try to get them out. Yeah.
Right. Not perfect.
Did you do the beer can cold too?
Yeah, beer can cold. That was the thing. So
the days of R22. Yeah. Things were much more simple.
I had a guy I used to work with. I used to teach at a school. I was actually running the department for a while. And the guy who worked for me, he was an oil guy, so he didn't know a whole lot about air conditioning. He was doing a side job. And he's up in an attic. He's calling me up, and he goes, no matter what I do, I can't get the suction line to be beer can cold. And it happened to be like about 98 degrees outside. And I go, what's the temperature in the house? He goes, it's about 86. And I go, so what do you do? How much refrigerant did you put in it? He goes, I got almost a full can in here. I go, it's not going to get beer can cold. Take some refrigerant out. I sent somebody to bail him out. Anyway, beer can cold. Yeah, that was the thing.
What about evacuation? Peter, what are you using full evacuum? Using a manifold, separate hoses, and a micron gauge? Which style?
Myself, really neither, because I jumped straight into the sales aspect of the company.
Oh,
so kind of skip past that point.
So no green hands at the end of the day.
Not really.
Not really. Well, you, Paul.
Yeah,
So what's your setup?
Yep, no manifolds. We're going straight to the system. We're going to use a core removal tool right there, and we're going to put our micron gauge right on the system.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So straight, simple, less leaks, and we're going to get a true reading. If we're doing really big systems, we may throw 2 hoses on there to evacuate both sides.
Right.
But that's our
and that's what the industry is. What we've been doing in this industry is simplifying the evacuation process. Back in the day, it was yellow jacket, manifold, whatever it is, and that's how we did it for the longest time. Now we're starting to learn how to properly evacuate a system and do it more efficiently.
It was also evacuate for 20 minutes. That's it. Now,
that's good enough.
So using a micron gauge, that's good. So let me ask you, a single or triple effect?
So, sure.
That's a good answer.
On every system that we are doing evacuation, it's not uncommon for us to pull down to about 40 microns, 40 to 50 microns.
Yep.
At that point, I don't see a purpose of a triple evacuation. We'll do a decay test. We're passing the decay test, and I think we're set.
So I know we've been harping on triple evac, but this is how I feel about it personally. If everything is new and it hasn't been exposed to the atmosphere, I think you're okay. But what we're seeing a lot of, when you talk to the different people, is a lot of junk and debris in the line set. So if anything has been there on the job site, then I think a triple evac is necessary. The lines have been there for a while and they're not sealed, and then I think you need to do the triple evac just to be safe. But you're putting the thing in yourself, you're putting the 1-to-1 minutes, but everything is there. You're done. I think you're okay.
And you'll be able to tell when you really need to do the triple evac when you're pulling down into a vacuum and it starts to stall out of going down to 1,000 microns, it jumps up to 1,500, it goes down to 1,000, and you just keeps stalling out on you. The triple evac is going to be the way to go. Just try to get those non-condensables out of the system. But yeah, fantastic.
I do have a video I can show you when we're done with this. Actually, somebody evacuating the system and he opens the lines and ice comes out of the pipe.
Yep, really.
Yeah.
Well, they claim that anything below 250 immediately pays the license. So you no longer evacuate.
I've heard both ways, listening to HVAC school and, they have their theory on that. So I would try to get as much insight into both as possible. So, who's right, who's not. I mean, we're experimenting in all essence,
Exactly.
Yeah.
The reality is that with all things, you're going to have your own best practices. If it's working for you, fantastic.
What you're doing that's important is you're using a micron gauge. A lot of time when I was teaching the classes, they mentioned a micron gauge. Honest answer, how many of you guys use a micron gauge? And you're lucky if half the class goes there. And that's it. So it's a micron gauge. Without that, you don't know.
Yeah, so I kind of want to go into installation challenges, and I always like to talk about climate and climate challenges. Now, Brent and I and Paul, we're all from Boston. I mean, what's the coldest we've seen in the past 10 years? Probably
Without the wind,
-5.
Yeah, without the wind chill, you're probably talking 5, 10, maybe below, without a wind chill.
What kind of temperatures are you guys looking at in the winter here?
I think every year is different. We had negative, right? We got some big polar vortex, what we lived in over storm.
Yeah, right. I remember that.
Yeah, but we definitely hit, 12, 10, 13, we got it.
Our average is what, 20, 30.
Once that 1 or 2 weeks where it really gets down.
Have you had any issues with Mitsubishi systems not being able to?
I have, and to find it wasn't a Mitsubishi problem. And sometimes you can't notice every single issue in somebody's home in every single room. This particular application was a building that went from it had a hydraulic breach on the first floor. It had 4 condos. All 4 condos were sized the same. There was only one condo that had the problem. And it just ended up being really poor infiltration from the old window and the sliding door. So besides that, and once that was taken care of, the problem went away.
I was here, I want to say it was 5 or 6 years ago. And it was like 25 below. And it was awful, And then I remember what sticks out to me was the forecast. The guy said, "Oh, it's going to get to 15 below by midday," and I'm like, "You can't tell the difference between 25 and 15 below. It feels exactly the same.
Like you're going to warm up or something."
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I'm looking at my short sleeves.
We installed a Mitsubishi system literally a week before that polar vortex a few years ago. And as the polar vortex is going on, I get a picture sent to me from the customer of the MHK2. And I'm freaking out. What's going on? He said nothing. He just sent me the picture. And so I called him up. I'm like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Oh, yeah, I'm just letting you know. It's -20 outside. And our system's operating fine." And I'm like, "Thanks, buddy. You scared the bejesus out of me, not letting me know the details here. But, yeah, it's working."
How many customers take the time to send you when things are working out well?
A good review.
Well, he was a refrigeration tech. So the one thing that we did learn, though, is in very high wind environments, we need installed wind baffles.
Yeah,
So that's one big thing that we include in our installs. It's potentially exposed to wind. We're going to throw one inside.
And typically that's the side of the building where the snow tends to collect.
Yeah, I mean, it can. Some of the places that we install them are out in farm country or close to, and so you just have these big old gusts that can come any direction, and so we've noticed a decrease in performance. So as soon as we throw a wind baffle on, system operates again like it's supposed to.
And it's just something fun for the trade now and breaking move wind baffles, right? They're mostly for just low ambient cooling conditions, right? And that's what they're really made to be.
So they actually have a couple of different designs, the baffles and then deflectors and so forth. So you have to make sure you get the right one depending on the model. But yeah, we put the angled ones that are actually, you can change the direction the air is coming out, downwards, to the side, upwards, so forth. Yeah.
So on a roof or something.
Yeah, actually, we've done it on the ground. Most of our installs are residential, so everything's usually ground based, and you still have an inlet, going out towards the really farm country areas.
What about the summer? What's the hottest it gets? Is it humid? Is it dry?
It's not humid. It depends on what day and what week, right? It fluctuates so much over there. Like we woke up this morning and it was like getting heat on day, and the day might be your condition. So really unusual patterns over there. I think 80s has been pretty typical, and we'll get some 90s and some humidity. And get that nice 2-3 week versus a storage out.
That's the thing. It's unpredictable because it could be 90s for a whole week. We had that, or polar vortex for 3-4 days. So the average is not a problem.
We'll be right back. Hey, listeners, if you like the METUS Tech Show, you should check out our YouTube channel called the METUS Training Network. That's METUS Training Network. Head on over to the METUS Training Network for tons of videos and programming made for HVAC professionals just like you. We've got technical training tips, HVAC program updates, and episodes of our new HVAC talk show called The Comfort Zone. Of course, you also get to catch up on more episodes of the METUS Tech Show as well. Head on over to YouTube and subscribe to the METUS Training Network today. Now, back to the METUS Tech Show.
I have plenty of systems that, again, before the polar vortex. Now do I worry? Because I tell people in sales call, if it's going to start heading towards zero, just understand that you might need some space heat. The climate. No, that's fantastic. That's good.
So you're installing mini splits as the sole source of heat.
We have a number of applications, yes.
Nice.
Yeah. Especially near this area, where it's like, so I want to say Burbank or some of the big old homes that have borders. Yeah.
I got no. Time out for 1 second. What's your notes?
That's the end of the notes.
No.
What do you got?
I don't know. Challenges.
Transition challenges.
Well, you know what? It is what it is. Truth is the truth.
Yeah.
We can't.
I mean, some of my challenges, you're going to.
Hold on. Yeah, it was fun. All right, so guys, what are some of the challenges you're seeing out there? I know one challenge is somebody mentioned you're looking for techs. Is there a shortage of techs out there, or you're finding all the help?
There's definitely a shortage of techs. If we can find some more 21-year-olds that
Probably be going right to sales.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's what they want to do, right? That's what they want to do. Some of these companies, that's what they get them.
Yeah, now, Paul, you're teaching. So, have you been there? How long have you been doing it?
Oh, gosh. I've been teaching, I think, for about 5 or 6 years now.
5 or 6 years. So, are you seeing these guys coming out of finishing the school and getting into the trade, or are they doing something else?
A lot of them do. So the program that we have, about half the students go into the local union, and the other half try to get out into the field. So you may see some of these guys, you may not. Some people never even make it. I remember going through class, because I went through the same program, and one guy was really good at what he wanted to do, but just didn't want to get into the industry. So he went back to being a host at a restaurant. So just because you get schooling doesn't mean that you're going to get into the field.
The school I went to, I was one of 16 guys that graduated from that class. And there's only 2 of us that 5 years later entered the trade. And one of them was a counter guy in supply house. So yeah, it's surprising. But that was different. But now the job is a lot different now. And it pays a lot better than it did when I was. Of course, I would never go into sales.
Right.
I'm just kidding.
I think if you're mechanically inclined and like to figure things out, it's a great field, right? You got electric, plumbing, you see all kinds of types.
Several trades in the same.
It's unique and different and challenging. If you like it, you just got to find the guys that like it.
Yeah.
It's definitely not boring.
No,
because they're always doing something different.
Yeah.
I was in Albuquerque a year or 2 ago, and I was talking to a bunch of people about this topic, workforce development and the shortage in all the trades. And I was talking to a woman, she ran this school, and she was actually a doctor, in education. And she said, yeah, she's like, these guy's graduating like you mentioned, a welder. And he's graduating and he's making more money than I make. So I said, in all the trades, and that's what happened. There's such a shortage of people that the money's in. And I was a 1099 independent contractor when we started. Now, no one's going to take a job for that. They're getting good money, good benefits.
But what these young people got to realize is all the money they're spending on college and building debt, it's not a problem. Go right to work and start making money.
That's it. Yeah. How about, what are some of the other challenges besides workforce?
We're not challenged.
Job's too easy. All right, we'll strike that question. Good.
Do a wrap up? Yeah. You got a half hour in anyway. So
Yeah.
Probably fine to wrap up. Yeah.
All right, I got one more. This part. Okay, so our target audience is the technician, the installer, the service guy in the truck. You know, some of you guys have been doing this a while, some of you guys have been doing this a short time, but to somebody, a stranger, a tech out there who's in the van right now and listen to us, what advice would you give that person? Paul, we'll start with you, put you on the spot.
It gets easier, right? A lot of technicians are overwhelmed with Mitsubishi equipment, just from a technological standpoint. If you were to get thrown in installing an intelligent, coil right off the bat, you may just say, hey, you know what, I never want to touch this again, and you run and you find another career. But Mitsubishi does a really good job of simplifying things, making sure that you learn the processes, the procedures, how to do things properly between the different trainings, the online trainings, so forth. So you may feel overwhelmed at the beginning because this is new technology and nobody's really talked to you about this, but it does get better. If you listen to the METUS Tech Show, you're going to learn, and that's the real easiest way.
Peter, now you're fairly young in this trade. What advice would you give?
I'd have to agree with Paul. I mean, only being in it for a few years now, I've definitely seen a lot of change, but it definitely comes easier over time, especially with all the stuff that they're hitting us with. It's just a matter of time before it all gets better, in my opinion. These big changes, the refrigerant changes, the sear changes, everything like that, I think a matter of time it'll become easier and more smooth.
Well said.
Awesome. Jerry?
Pretty much, I'd say every person, every tech, every installer, like, choose your own destiny out there. There's so much opportunity if you train and learn and all the different departments and equipment and every home you go in. Talk to the homeowners. See what concerns they have. Do they have other issues? Because most of the time, besides their repairs that they haven't had, there's a lot of things going on in the house. So if you pay attention to items that they're concerned about and you can address them or bring the people in that can, you're going to be rewarded. And there's no reason why, even if you're in a climate like ours where it's hot and cold and nothing in between, where you can stay busy. And the more you learn, it can become a very, very wholesome career and make a lot of money. And without the expensive degrees like Dave was mentioning.
Yeah, Mitsubishi's been the most reliable product that I think they've ever had. So I'd say don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of it, like Paul said, with service and stuff to them. After a few times of looking at it and going through it, don't be afraid of it.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the pizza. And Jen, thanks to you and Anthony for putting this together for us. Now, pass me a slice of that deep dish because I haven't eaten in like an hour.
Any plates behind you?
Hey, Paul, let's not go out.
That's a good dish, yes. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. All right, now, so what was in this one? Does anybody remember what was in there? Was sausage?
Oh my God.
It was sausage, pepperoni?
Sausage, mushroom, green pepper, and onion.
Sausage,
Same as
mushroom.
this one.
So the deep dish and the stuffed
Thank
one
you.
were the same. What was in that one right there?
That's what I heard.
I like
This
the
is
beef,
pepperoni instead of sauce.
the beef and jardins and the big
This does have pepperoni?
Yeah, it does not have sauce.
Oh, what was that one that you're doing with that?
I don't know. He's got a plate. He
All
kept
right,
pointing
I
at it.
don't
I gave it to one. Which you want this?
Holy shit.
All right, we're going to eat. Thanks for listening, everyone.